Hello, everyone. This is Jason Owens. Thank you so much for coming in to episode number 5, where we're going to talk about how you can develop warm prospects out of cold, thin air. So before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has checked out my first 4 episodes of my podcast. As we launched it out last week, was really excited to see how things would turn out. Ended up going ahead and doing a little bit of an outreach through Facebook, did an outreach through some of the people here who are fans of my community. And I tell you what, I had a really good showing, was very happy with it. And again, this is one of the fun parts about just having good old-fashioned humble beginnings and just taking it every day as it comes and just doing your best with what you have, right? So anyway, it's fun. I'm really getting a kick out of this. Had on the very first day that I launched the podcast, I got a phone call, and guy on the other end says, "Hey, listen, you probably don't remember me, but you taught a class that I took about a year ago." And he was recalling where this class was taught. And I remembered exactly one of the public speaking events that I had as a workshop that I ran in North Carolina. And anyways, the person was in insurance at the time and has since switched over to doing some of the type of marketing that we're doing here, some of the content-based marketing. And anyway, it was fun to get a phone call, and we didn't chat long. We talked for, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 minutes. It was really good to catch up and just find out what he's up to these days. I believe he's doing some work out on Amazon, doing some Amazon retailing there, which is fun. I mean, that can be a fantastic niche as well. So, and that was great, right? So it's just amazing. I keep hearing these types of stories over and over again from people who run podcasts who say, "Jason, you will be surprised. People will listen to you for years and never reach out, but then one day they do." I mean, I've heard stories of people who've been listening to a podcast, listening to the host for 5 years, and something about one of the episodes triggers something, and the person will then end up reaching out and saying thank you for covering a particular topic or whatnot. And anyway, I just keep hearing time and time again that you never really know just how your work is affecting other people and affecting them in a positive way. So by all means, this is just the very first person to reach out to me. So that was great. And to have that happen on the first day or so that my podcast had been launched, that was really, really a special treat. So again, it's great stuff, everyone. I really appreciate it and really appreciate the comments. So with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into today's episode. Now, I know that we talk a lot about email marketing here, and that's one of the strong suits that I have. And of course, I love doing landing pages and helping people develop really good lead magnets to help build a very strong and responsive email list. This conversation today is not going to have a whole lot of technology in it, right? It's going to have a whole bunch of what's called smiling and dialing. Years ago, I had a bit of a career U-turn. I was on a side street in my career. I landed in the insurance industry, and I was not content to be in the back office. The way that I entered this industry was a field-based position, meaning I was going around doing good old-fashioned living room-based selling. And I tell you what, that is eye-opening, people. If you have never done living room-based selling, driving around, having 10 to 12 appointments a week, meeting people at their house, going in, seeing how they live, it is, you haven't lived. That's all I can say. I mean, it's eye-opening. And I tell you what, it is not for the faint of heart, because you have to be the one to book those 10 to 12 appointments, right? You have to work the phones and figure out the past relationships in the company and see who's available to you. And anyway, so it's not easy to do, let me tell you. But I ended up making it 3 years there before I got a promotion. So I must have been doing something right. So anyway, it was good. It was good. It was hard. It was some of the hardest work I've ever done. But I tell you what I learned in that world, and that is how to set appointments, right? How to pick up the phone, how to develop a list of prospects, pick up the phone and call people, right? So learned that lesson and learned it quite well. So what I'm going to share with you is a story that has to do with that set of skills that I've developed many years ago, and on occasion have opportunity to put back in place. So a client approaches me or a prospect approaches me saying, hey, Jason, this is the kind of work that I want to do. I want to get into this expert space. I want to start public speaking. I have a particular niche that I'm working in, and I'm wondering if you can help me. And I said, well, okay, sure. So we started talking about the niche and come to find out that, this person has a niche, not going to give it away, not going to give away somebody's hard-earned niche that they're carving out here. But so this person has a niche and was really looking to do some speaking in that niche with this circle, with this group of people, developing his own tribe. And what was very intriguing about this to me is that in this particular case, this person did not come to me saying, Jason, I have a list of people. I know exactly who I want to contact. Will you go contact them for me? Right? So this isn't necessarily just somebody outsourcing sales work that they were already doing. We got to co-create the list together, right? So we're going into completely wide open space here, literally opening up the spreadsheet and just putting in the first name and starting to populate that down. Here's what we ended up doing. I'll give you a bit of the methodology because certainly this approach will work really across the board, depending upon, well, really no matter what niche you're in. If you're really trying to figure out, gosh, where can I go and really carve out some good public speaking, whether it's paid or non-paid gigs, how can I get out there and at least give myself, if I can't get paid for the engagement, where can I find opportunities to sell from the stage, so to speak? And I'm using sell from the stage here as a pretty loose term. That does not mean that you get up and do a 90-minute infomercial, right? No, you typically teach your brains out for the better part of an hour. And then at the end of that hour, you may have 5 minutes where you can go into pitch mode. But hey, you know what? If you're really out there just laying it out, doing great stuff for the better part of an hour, I mean, really, truly helping people move the needle in their business for 50 minutes, 55 minutes, tell you what, that last 5 minutes can be very lucrative to your business. So do not overlook speaking gigs if you can't get a fee up front. If you can negotiate those last 5 minutes of your gig to where you can say, hey, everyone, this is what I do. This is my pricing structure. These are my levels of service, whatever that ends up being. Some people won't even let you say that much, but if you can get at least a plug in at the tail end, you could be standing in front of a room of 30 people, 50 people, 100 people, and it doesn't take a huge conversion rate off of those kinds of numbers to end up saying, yeah, I may not have gotten paid $500 or $1,000 to come in and do that talk, but I got paid $5,000 off the people who did business with me over the next 3 months. So that is very, very possible. And effectively, the client that is working with me, that's exactly the model that we're looking at, right? So you go in and talk, and maybe you're not getting paid up front, but you're certainly looking for the sales coming out of the back end of that presentation. So anyway, here we are, blank sheet of paper, really trying to figure out how in the world do we reach this? Now, this is a professional niche here that this person is looking for. So it's not technically it's not a business to consumer type niche or tribe that he's looking for. It's really business to business. So really, if you have to begin looking business to business, for me, my first thought off my mind, if I'm trying to prospect, I'm going straight to LinkedIn, right? And I'm going straight to groups on LinkedIn. And my client initially had a very tight geography that he wanted to target. So wanted to be able to get in the car and drive to these places, right? And really wanted about a 90-minute radius from where we are right now up in the Philadelphia area. Now, face it, people, in 90 minutes, you can get to New York City, all right? There's a lot of people up here. So we ended up drawing that radius around and really just trying to figure out what groups in this, the greater Philadelphia area, what groups can we find if we just go in and essentially do a search inside of LinkedIn, right? So we type in a couple keywords, and we found, frankly, not as much as what we were wanting, right? I would think in an area, in a geography that has this many people, that we would have found a lot more. Okay, so here we hit this crossroad, which you are bound to hit in your world as well. And that crossroad is, Do I want to physically travel to be face to face with people, right? So that's one side. The other side is, could I go virtual? Could I do these through some type of a GoToWebinar, some type of an online presentation, online training? Could I do it that way, right? So again, don't be surprised if you're going the type of speaking that I just mentioned, where you're doing some type of training and you're looking for the sale to come out of the back end. You're probably not getting paid a whole lot to do the gig itself. There's a very good chance that you could expand your effectiveness and land more speaking gigs if you're willing to do something virtually. So for those of you who haven't really looked into that, and again, there's plenty of technology available to do that. I usually default to GoToWebinar, but great Scott, there are a lot of platforms out there that you can choose from. So anyway, again, you will probably run into this decision that you need to make at some point in your speaking career. So what we did for my client was, and again, this took us some back and forth. Now, kind of my MO through this was to spend about 2 or 3 hours going through, doing some prospecting, digging through lists, just trying to find what groups are available, handing that list off to my client so that he could look at it and say, okay, I like this one. I don't like number 2, number 4 and 5 I like, number 12 and 15 I like. And all of those ones that were checked off as like, those are ones that were candidates to go in and explore a little deeper, right? So the rationale there was to just kind of do really a pretty in-depth search through LinkedIn. All right, so that is the high level. Now, here's what also happens when you are prospecting. As you are prospecting, that truly think of this as mining, okay? Frankly, there could be no better analogy than mining. So here you are, and you come across the 1 or the 2 groups that end up being the mother lode, right? You come across the one where, never knew that this group existed. Let me go check out a website. They have chapters all over. Go in, look at some of the event calendars. Sure enough, the event calendars show both live and virtual training that happens. Go in, look at some of the virtual training. Okay, it's very clear that whoever is speaking is allowed to do 5 minutes worth of true, honest to goodness selling from the stage at the tail end of the talk. Okay, now we've just hit something. We hit a vein that we can mine and mine and mine. That's a really, really good finding. Now, let me give you an idea of just how long it took us to find that one vein, okay? I keep a timesheet on most of the jobs that I do, and I'm going through this one and going through it. And again, we're just kind of doing this high-level prospecting, going to LinkedIn, typing in keywords, seeing what comes up. Does this interest you? Does it not interest you? We were at that for probably right around 12 hours before we hit what I would call anything of real, true substance. Okay, and let me tell you what happens mentally when you're in that phase, just kind of skimming the surface and not finding a whole lot. It is very, very common to want to give up. It's very common to get discouraged. It's very common to get frustrated. It's very common to doubt your call. It is very common to wonder why God may have ever asked you to go down this road. I mean, all of those things, it's very common to hit that when you're in this phase. Now, when you find this really good core that you're going to go follow, you find this really good group, an organization, people who get together, an online group maybe. Whenever you discover that really good core that you're going to go tap into and just mine it for all it's worth, then things really hit the hook, right? You really feel like the momentum picks up, the emotional and mental energy picks up a lot. Your morale gets boosted when you can actually pick up the phone and call a real live person and the other person says, that's neat. Yeah, I like it. Go ahead and send me some more information and let's schedule a call to get back together on Tuesday. Okay, that feels like progress, right? And I tell you what, it is very doable. You don't necessarily need a script, right? Whenever you call in, it's not a bad idea to have one, but I tell you what, the less that you sound like a person reading from a script, frankly, the better off you're going to do. So at least that's been my personal experience. So anyway, if you do, now let's go ahead and shift into kind of a different phase now. You have discovered the group that you're going to go reach out to. You're now able, rather than just putting down the names of groups or the names of professional associations on a spreadsheet, you're now able to dial into websites and find honest to goodness names of people. Okay. Now you're getting somewhere, right? So we're now shifting away. We now have a completely new tab on our spreadsheet where we're no longer tracking just the names of groups. We're now going down group by group, and we're now identifying individual contacts in that group. Hey, in these particular groups where your tribe hangs out, we have people in there who are open to you coming in and talking live. We have people who are open to you talking virtually. Let's go in, look at the board of directors. On the board of directors, usually it specifically says, these are the two people who are in charge of programming. I mean, great Scott, you guys, that couldn't be any easier. Once you know what to look for, that's great. So you go in, look at the board of directors, or you look at a head of committee. And of course, you're looking for a name like the chair of the learning committee or vice president in charge of online education, so something that is, frankly, it's pretty straightforward. Whenever you're skimming through it, it's not going to be finance, of course. It's not going to be an operations type job. It's typically somebody has a job of learning or education for the group. So with that in mind, once you see that, that becomes really easy. And if you're really lucky, you'll even be able to get some contact information, not just their name, but you'll get a link to maybe their business site or even their email. Great Scott. But the best for me, I always prefer a phone. Always, always, always prefer starting a conversation by phone when I'm doing this kind of work, when I'm prospecting on somebody else's behalf. So with that in mind, it now becomes good old-fashioned smile and dial, just like things were for me way long ago when I was back in the insurance industry. Great Scott, there were times when we had this thing called call night, and it was Monday nights, and it was this thing that was set up across the entire region, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. The people who were brand new that were in their first year, first 2 years, they were required to call in for call night. Well, on call night, it was a 2-hour deal. You had 45 minutes, and then you had a bit of a break, and then you had another 45 minutes. And during those 45 minutes, you were working the phones. You were calling out. You were reaching out to clients that hadn't been touched in a while. And tell you what, you learn how to work the phones when you have 45 minutes staring you in the face, and you have to call in for a check-in call at the end of that 45 minutes, and you have to say, I set 5 appointments, or I set no appointments, right? So you learn how to work the phones. So anyway, when you have that in mind, you can go ahead and do it. Now, the hardest part, of course, again, it took us 12 hours just to find out where to start building the list. Okay. Now, in the past roughly 3 to 4 hours in this job, we have began to identify names of people to call, phone numbers, email addresses. We've reached out to several of them, or I've reached out to several of them on behalf of my client. And hey, listen, here's my client. Here's his one sheet. Gosh, would love to have him come out and talk to you. Are you open to virtual? Yeah, we're open to virtual. So anyway, it's all been good. And then now we're making progress. But I wanted to kind of relay this story to you just to get an idea as you are traipsing down this road of maybe making your own calls, right? Reaching out on your own behalf, trying to land speaking gigs. How am I going to do that? Am I really looking for the $5,000 gig, or am I open to a different way of building a list, right? And granted, getting the $5,000 gig, yeah, who wouldn't want a $5,000 speaking gig? Typically, of course, when you're up there on stage talking, there is zero selling from the stage, right? They're not paying you big money to give an infomercial. So anyway, if you're open to, again, going out and meeting people, working a room, and you have a really good back-end sales funnel, right? You have a really good funnel to pull people into or allow them to opt in, and then work sales after the conversation itself, after the talk that you give. Again, that can be very lucrative, very, very lucrative. So certainly don't overlook it. And when you're at that beginning stage, don't get discouraged when you're looking and looking and looking, and you have a message that you want to get out there, and you know that you've created a great book, and it's just a matter of getting it in the right hands. Do not give up when you're in that phase of just trying to figure out, how in the world am I going to find people to call? I don't even know who to reach out to, right? So it just gets so much better once you have that list and you can begin picking up the phone and making those calls, right? It's just a completely different mindset when you're able to do that, because eventually you will get better at what you do. Eventually, when you're on the phone with somebody, you will remember the past 5 times when you started off a conversation one way that it hasn't gone so well. And then you try starting the conversation a different way. And suddenly you start to see doors open, right? It is the school of transactions. Well, the important part there is transactions. You have to have the iterations. That is what gives you the education, all right? So pick up the phone, dial it, follow up, take notes, make sure you're tracking what works and doesn't work, and you will end up having success with this. So with that, that is my background of what we've done here for a client. And I don't do many of these types of engagements where I'm doing the calling and prospecting for people, because again, it's quite expensive in time and investment there, but I do take on very, very few of those. So anyway, if you're interested in doing that yourself, that is a bit of the model that I've used, a bit of the framework. So I hope that serves you well, and I can't wait to see you for my next podcast episode. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.